Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep the Mining podcast. And today's guest is Ritch Wigham, who's the CEO and director of Lake Zinc, who are a mineral exploration company focused on the development of critical and precious minerals at its OConnor Lake property located in South Slave regions in the Northwest Territories of Canada. Ritch has a geology and finance background. And is leading this junior miner into the future. And he's going to talk about the history of the company and what the company's looking to do to move forward with this important, obviously critical project and focusing what they're doing moving forward. So that's welcome Ritch to the podcast. How you doing, Ritch?
Very well, thanks, Rob. Very much appreciate the opportunity to talk. Quickly, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
I was going to say, no, that's fine. And I was going to say, appreciate you for taking the time as well. And obviously we were speaking off air, and obviously the project that you've got is critical minerals. But before we go into the company and the project, I just wonder if you can give the audience, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, about your background, about your career, before we then speak about Slave.
All right, well, I left university to become a broker and got into the finance industry. Back early 20s. I'm in my 60s now. Spent that entire time basically trading in commodities for the first half of it, and on the second half, kind of reverting back to my broader knowledge of the mining area, and did a lot of money raising and financing for mining projects, ones that I liked. Going back just a few years now, as we say over here, I went to the dark side and I became CEO of Lake Zinc, to fulfill more of that from the side of actually running the mining company. Part of the reason, I'll be honest with you, Rob, and I don't want to belabor this, I saw so many companies that could have done better. And let me throw one out for you. This is a saying that was said to me a long time ago by an old fella at that time. And he said, I've been in great deals with with bad people, and I've been in bad deals with great people, but I've never been in a great deal with great people. And so I'm trying to fulfill the third part of that. I'm sure there are some people that would disagree with that at this point. It's been a rough market, pricing being what it is. But, that was the objective, is to, really have a good, solid company with a solid project that myself and my partner, Jazz Ray, who's the president, put together to bring to the public and ultimately be very successful, which I know we are. We've got a tremendous project.
Yeah. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about Lake Zinc, and also about the O'Connor Lake and the history behind all of it.
Sure. The history is important because O'Connor Lake property was originally developed by private money. American Yellowknife Mines. So they came in and put in a 100-foot, 80-foot shaft with 120 feet of crosscut, head frame, everything there ready to go. In the day, even that took millions of dollars to do. In 1952, that was a lot of money to take out of your pocket. As the mill was finally getting to the point where it would be functional, the prices of the commodities, in this case lead and zinc, dropped, and zinc went from 80 cents to 15, 18 cents a pound, literally overnight. And so the operation was shuttered at that point in 52. This is important. In 53 and 54, a fellow by the name of Bonsi Prousti, who was a East Indian student, not an indigenous Indian student, but an East Indian student, came over and did his doctoral thesis on the property. And so what's interesting about the area is that across that entire area, there are 25 odd showings of zinc and lead. So I don't want to go back and forth, but all of those showings, we're now going to show that they are connected to the primary source, which I think is our head frame area. The property itself was one of those old time stories where it literally got put into the back of the file cabinet because American Yellowknife Mines was bought and then it was taken over and then it became, Ray Rock, and then it became other mines. And so, as you know, in the mining industry, there's been a great deal of switching and consolidation with certainly the majors. The history of any one of the majors has got 22, previous mining iterations behind it somewhere. And so our project got lost, except for our director, Glenn McDonald, whose dad worked actually in Yellowknife for American Yellowknife Mines, knew the project. So when it finally came up in 2006, Glenn and his partner, Max, who's also a director, staked the ground. And there you have why we have the ground. The problem was that in the late 90s, and this will feed into what our collaboration agreement is, Rob, because this is how we got to where we are. In the late 90s, the Canadian government asked all of the indigenous groups to basically set out claim areas for where their historic area of interest they felt was. And so the entire South Slave region, or at that time, was then carved up by the Dene, the Cree, the different groups. And in our case, it was the Northwest Territory Métis Nation who said that that area was historically their area that they dealt with. So what that created was an area where you could not go and make any claims, you couldn't go and do any work, you couldn't do anything. And so our little lease, which was technically staked prior to any of this claiming, was left for the owners, in our case us, but we couldn't do anything around it. The problem with that is after we did a quick couple of rounds of ground geophysics, we discovered that our mineralization went literally from border to border on the original claim group and obviously kept going. So we knew that we had to do something about improving our land position. And so to do that, what we had to do was to engage with obviously the indigenous groups, specifically the Northwest Territory Métis Nation, who we had a couple of previous agreements and leading up to a collaboration agreement, the collaboration agreement allowing us to ask the government for an order in council to open up a larger package of ground. And so we went from roughly 700 acres to the better part of 17,000 acres surrounding our ground. What's important with that is going back to when I mentioned to you that we knew in the area historically, there were some 25 odd showings of zinc and lead that were also there. So prior to the collaboration agreement, I know this sounds convoluted, we did a 900 line kilometer airborne geophysics of the same style of geophysics we used on the ground. Now, I'm not going to go through that because my geologist is able to do that. I'm not the guy to do that. But it was the same kind of geophysics. They match up perfectly. And so what we have is we have a great package now to go and move forward with the geophysics been done, the land acquisition now been done finally, and we're ready to move forward.
What's the importance of the collaboration agreement that you mentioned earlier?
Well, it allows us to move our project literally through to the feasibility stage without having to have any interference. So if any of your viewers, which I'm sure there are plenty who are aware of what the Canadian environment is that there has been a real issue for many, many years where juniors and even seniors have not talked to the stakeholders to go forward with their projects. And in a matter of minutes, literally, they can be stopped at whatever level the stakeholders want to from going forward. And it can be a real problem. So I'll give you one quick example. The Ring of Fire, which is in northwestern Ontario, it is a massive project. And it's had nothing but issues and continues to, because they went across, I think it was 11 or 13 different indigenous groups areas and didn't talk to any of them initially. Well, those people, deserve some respect. You can't really do that and expect to be welcomed, onto with your project. So what we did is we did that first to make sure that the groups understood the benefits of what we were doing for them as well. And that was going back part of that 900 line kilometer flying, which is a big area. I mean, that's a significant area of airborne geophysics, was to show the representatives, the proper representatives, what we thought we had. And as it turns out, we have significantly more than what we thought we had. So, we're keeping that geophysics, basically as a proprietary. So, there's only the company insiders are aware of what all is there. But I can tell you, we're very, very, very happy with that geophysics. I'm not going to shy away from that comment for sure.
Yeah.
And all of it leads, and it's a kind of a total package. So the collaboration agreement was critical in us being able to stake the ground around us, because the land had to be withdrawn from the withdrawal. I know that sounds funny, but it had to be taken back out of the withdrawal and given back to the Crown, in this case, which is the federal government acting. There's still laws, acting for the Queen, et cetera, because we're in the territories, we're not in the provinces, and allowed us to go and stake it as if it was open ground somewhere else that didn't have any withdrawal or any claim on it. So that ground is very precious to us, and it's a very good piece of ground.
So I wonder if you can just tell us about the sort of location and the infrastructure surrounding, obviously, the project. Obviously, those in Canada will probably be more familiar, but people who listen to this podcast can be anywhere around the world.
Well, if people, pick up a map, like it is so easy now just to go and, get on your phone or get on something and Google the area. The closest town is called Fort Resolution, and it's about 50 kilometers to pretty much north of, it's north and west of us. There was a winter road, and just to explain for people outside of the Northern Hemisphere, a winter road is what you cut into the ground in the winter so you can move back and forth. Moving things in the winter is really easy. Moving things in the summer is really hard, because you've got frozen lakes, you got frozen rivers, you got frozen things you can go back and forth. So we have a winter road already that's there from the old days that goes from our location to Fort Resolution. From Fort Resolution, there is an all-weather road that goes from there to what would be the first junction, which is Hay River, which has a railhead. Now, Hay River is about 110 or 20 kilometers from Fort Resolution, but between Hay River and Fort Resolution, we have the Osisko rehabilitation of the old Cominco mine. Now, just as a sidebar on that, Rob, that mine at one point was the largest lead zinc mine in the world, and produced 15, 18 years Mississippian style mineralization. It is a very, very, very significant producer back in its day. I think at one point it was the largest lead zinc, as I said, producing mine in the world. So we can get out pretty easy. Our stuff is not hard to get out. To this southeast of us a little bit, and not very far at all, is what's called the Tolston River Hydro Project. Now the hydro project actually will have lines literally running either through or right beside our property, so that we'll be within just a couple of kilometers of being able to hook into that hydropower. And that's really important to us, because up in the territories, really once you get north of Edmonton, say, just about everything runs off of diesel, and that's horrible. That's just a horrible way to produce, and it's a horrible way to run a town and run a mine. So we'll be on the hydro line, which allows us to claim our greenness, which we can do. And, that's very important. So we've got power right there. And then we've got the rail line up to the northwest, where right now, across the lake from us, there's a new mine that is barging ore across the lake to that railhead and shipping it south. So our infrastructure needs are really well taken care of, and we look forward to getting to that level of development for that.
Your previous news release had mentioned border-to-border mineralization, and obviously just briefly covered that. Just wondering if you can expand on what that actually means.
Well, what that means is that where the head frame is over top, essentially, of the discovery veins that the old fellas, put all that money into. Now, back in '52, it's long enough ago that you can't rely on that kind of historic, kind of attitude, because as the older miners will tell you that are out there, that they didn't do an awful lot of work before they did some commitments to doing things sometimes. And so what it means in our case, it means that for over a kilometer, in direction both ways, and then on a second vein that was not, part of the known package before, we have that go from border to border to our original property. So what you're looking at is what we had prior to the acquisition of the land that now surrounds all that. So we were very fortunate in the sense that there was a withdrawal, because I can promise you, if there wasn't, we would have had a real tough time fighting everybody off that would want to be staking, on all our boundaries all around us. So we were able to, deal with that without having to do other things. So we have all the ground that we believe is necessary to cover up on all those extensions on the mineralization that's there.
Yeah. Why did you do a 900-kilometer geophysics before you acquired the expanded land position? And
because
why
we're crazy.
Did you? And I was just saying, why did you increase the land as well?
Well, we did it because knowing that the mineralization went border to border, and to be quite frank, the geophysics that we used is really simple stuff on the scale of geophysics. It's not complicated geophysics as geophysics goes. So it's not super black box stuff. It's just regular black box stuff. And our partners, I will say that, the Northwest Territory Métis Nation, there are questions, of course, in the other indigenous groups, or why do you want to do that? What's going on with you there? Why should we allow you to do all of this? You're asking us to do special things because it's our land and all the rest. And so to satisfy all of the questions in one kind of fell swoop, I flew it because that showed why we wanted to enhance our project. And when we got the geophysics back, as I say, it was, much better than we'd even anticipated. And it was very clearly and very definitively obvious to anybody who sees the whole thing why it's important that we were allowed to acquire the land, because of course we have 100% ownership of the land, quote unquote, because it's not, it's never really our land. It's always, the stakeholders are there. But at that point, it was, easy to show that if we were allowed to proceed, ultimately, it would be extremely profitable, likely, for the indigenous groups in the South Slave, which, include Fort Smith, Hay River, Fort Resolution, our closest neighbor, and then the broader communities, surrounding. And, there aren't really very many operating anythings, in that area of the Northwest Territories. The Northwest Territories right now is really the diamond mines and, one or two other smaller type, gold mines or smaller mines that are doing things. So we can be a tremendous employment opportunity, for the people there. And that helped show that, Rob, where it became fairly clear that when you have it explained to you by, in our case, Glenn McDonald, our geologist, and, myself a little bit, because I have some knowledge, that the opportunity was definitely there to let us proceed. For us not to proceed would be very negative on the communities. And one of the things that I'll quickly mention about small northern communities, they're like small communities anywhere in the world that have a long-standing history. If you want to keep your young people in the community, you have to have reason for them to be in the community. History doesn't matter. What you need are jobs, and you need to have the ability to make, a good living while you're in that community. And that's what we're offering with the development of our project.
Yeah. The importance of the Prousty thesis, which I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly,
Yes.
is developing the hydrothermal model and how it pertains to your current field work. I just wonder if you can explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost fell off my chair when I read that thesis. And it's very simple. There is nothing else that this can be. It is hydrothermal. You can throw all the rocks at it you want, so to speak, but it's hydrothermal. And so ultimately what our Mr. Prousty did over those 2 summers, I should say Dr. Prousty, because he became a doctor after he wrote this thesis, is that he showed that all of the showings within the area were also from the same source. Let me quote just a sec here. It appears that all the mineralized quartz showings, veins occurring in this area have had the same source. Well, that means that somewhere within our new area of interest, there is one huge vent, something that created the fluids that created chemically similar lead zinc showings. Now, they didn't do precious metals back in the day, and they didn't do other things. And so we've got to go back and bring all of this up to modern ability, modern science. And so that's what we're doing literally right now. We have, we're ground proofing, shall we say, to bring up to 43101 standard, which is the mining standard that I think everybody's aware of, to take it to a modern level. And so when I read Dr. Prousty's thesis, who spent 2 years in the lab and in the field and taking samples and, writing the entire area up that we now have, these showings, some of them are 15 kilometers apart, Well, if you've got lead and zinc that's 15 kilometers apart and it comes from the same source and you can show that chemically, then I would suggest that you've got something of importance. And that's what we have.
Yeah.
We're proving that now.
Obviously, Canada is going through a lot of political issues at the moment. I just wonder if you
Yes.
can just tell us a little bit about the current market and obviously the political events and how that may influence some of your decisions moving forward.
Well, we were lucky enough actually to have the government a couple of months ago put out a list of, quote, strategic metals. Now, most countries already have. The US has had a list of strategic metals. Britain's had it forever. Well, Canada finally did, and they included zinc on that list. And so, our primary, metal that is there that we don't have to sort of, walk around until we reprove everything because of the, difference between now and the 50s, is zinc. And we've got 12 to 17% zinc in, a significant quantity that will become a much more significant quantity. And that will make it easier to get government backing, for example, because in Canada, there are really only a couple of places where you are producing zinc in any description, and certainly not in the quantity that we will be able to. Now, when Osisko gets the old Cominco mine, the Pine Point mine, up and running and going, they feel that they could become as high as the fourth highest producer in the world, which would be significant. But that will also help us out because their processing and our processing and all the rest of that, may well have lots of things in common that can be, done on a collective basis. So, right now, it's very, very important in Canada to develop our own sources of these metals. And I believe we've had great support from the Northwest Territory government that there's no reason that isn't going to continue from the federal government.
Yeah. And as a conclusion, just wondering what the outlook is for the next sort of 6 to 12 months. And is there any final thoughts that you want to let our audience know?
Well, I guess the best way to start is, as a junior company, we're always looking for, advanced funding, thinking ahead, because we do need to, do a significant, work program coming out. The last couple of years, to be quite frank, we have time is a killer for mining companies, because when you've got no income, time still steals your money as you go forward. And so we could certainly would like to speak with people who, see the vision and would like to participate. We, as I say, are right now bringing all those showings that are historic into a modern framework. And if you don't think I'm excited about that, well, you're quite wrong. I am very excited about that. I'm, hurry up, get going. our fellas, just let's get at it. So that's exciting right now for us, and that'll be, we'll have a lot of those results back, from assay, from the work, etc. In September, October, and that's very exciting. And after that, as we go forward, a project that is going to have lots of high marks to it. It's exciting. We're helping the communities around us. We have all the right check marks with our infrastructures, not just green, but extraordinarily green. We don't have to, rely on great long distances and things like the diamond mines, which have hundreds of kilometers that they've got to go to places. And, so we're in a really good place, for a very significant project and ultimately a tremendous development.
Yeah. And I suppose lastly, why would any of our audience or anyone that's listening to either the podcast or the YouTube channel of this episode, why would they want to invest in Slave Lake Zinc?
Well, I would hope, Rob, that the last 30 minutes tells them why. And if they watch the podcast at all, I would hope that they understand that we've got a really good project and that, this is the time that you want to be involved, because if you're involved now, you should make significant returns on your investment, and if you are in the position to help us finance where we're going, then that would be very positive also.
Yeah. Rich, really appreciate your time and giving us an overview. It seems a really exciting project, a huge landmass. Zinc is a critical metal, as you said. It's obviously on a lot of countries, a lot of countries, critical metals or minerals that are needed for us as a world to move forward. So really wish you well in your projects moving forward. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions that they want to ask, how can they go about contacting you, and are you on any social media?
Well, we have a LinkedIn, and I'm not. There's two ways, and these aren't secret. One is the company's my email, which is rwigham, RWIGHAM at zinccorp, ZINCCORP.ca. Don't forget the second C in Zinc Corp. And the other one, of course, is I'm always available on the phone, 604-396-5762. And I'm not afraid to speak to people.
Yeah, no, that's good. And we can include those in the show notes accompanying this anyway. So for ease access for people to obviously reach out to you. So really appreciate your time. Good luck with the project. Maybe you want to come on beginning part of next year and give us an update on proceedings. Yep. That's great to hear. Those that are listening, I hope you enjoyed that episode. As Rich said, obviously zinc is a critical metal or mineral that is needed, and they've got a great project here at Slave Lake Zinc. And yeah, please have a look at the project, have a look at the website, which I'll include in the show notes. And if you've got any questions, then obviously feel free to reach out to Rich. Appreciate if you can share this episode amongst others in the industry, friends, colleagues, etc. Whether you're in Canada or even if you're outside of Canada as well. So obviously people can listen to this content and obviously listen to this exciting project. So until next time, happy mining.